Well, thank you for tuning in. I've got your weather report for you. Hey, it's cold outside. Thank you. Anyways, I'm PC Pedro, and welcome to another Flyover Dispatches. Dispatches from Flyover Country, the part of the country that nobody gives a darn about because, well, you just fly over from coast to coast. Thank you, Coasties. We love you too. Thanks for screwing everything up. Speaking of Coasties, hey Gavin. You know who I'm talking about, Gavin. Hey Gavin. How come there was no water when you had wildfires, man? Look, I grew up in California, and I grew up right near Santa Rosa, in fact. I used to live near a town called Paradise. What do these two towns have in common? Well, both of them burned to the ground. Now, Paradise is one thing. Paradise is an area, it's kind of like, we have a lot of them in Idaho where they're just roadless areas. It's just wilderness, right? And if lightning strikes out there and that fire gets going, man, good luck, okay? Little villages we have sometimes disappear. Paradise was a pretty big town. I've been there and several times. And you know, they used to have a great little steakhouse in Quincy, which is another place nearby. Anyways, so I spent a lot of time in Orville, Berry Creek, all that. Yeah, Berry Creek's gone. Berry Creek got wiped out by a fire. Now, that was, again, a little village. But when you refuse to maintain your forests, okay? Like, I had a friend come out here to Idaho, and I took him way up to a place, Loman. We were looking at hot springs. A lot of hot springs around. You can just pull over. There's a guidebook you can buy. You pull over at mile marker such and such, walk down. Hey, look, it's a natural hot spring. You take off your clothes, you jump in. Ooh, mineral springs. It's great. Anyways, he's really into, he's a DNA research scientist. I'm not going to name his name. I've known him since kindergarten. But DNA research scientist, the guy's got a degree in biology. And he looked around at this hillside and he said, man, what is wrong with your forest? And I looked up at the forest and I said, oh man, yeah, it's this Japanese beetle. You know, it comes over on a container ship and gets off the container ship. Much like the mosquitoes in Iceland. Oh my God, oh, everybody's panicking in Iceland. They got mosquitoes now. They've never had them before. Yeah, well, you know what? Hey, screen your cargo better. Crap gets in. Okay, anyways. What it was, though, is that he noticed all these dead trees that were standing in these huge, this is Idaho, so it's huge stands of forest, right? I mean, massive. But you could see brown spots all over the place. He pointed it out. He's like, man, those trees are sick. You guys should like call those out. Yeah, call those out. Call them out. They're sick. What do you do with them? Well, you sell the lumber is what you do. You cut the trees down and you sell the lumber. The trees might be sick, but you whack them up into 2x4s and 2x12s and hey, you're building houses. Well, we can't do that in Idaho because in that particular area, it's all owned by the federal government. And at the time, Bill Clinton was in charge. And well, you know, the Clintonistas, they didn't know anything about what they were doing. They were just ding-dongs. I mean, let's face it. The poor guy, Bill Clinton. I feel sorry for the guy. I like Bill Clinton. I think, and I'm a lifelong Republican, and I live in Idaho. Own more guns than God, and we don't agree politically on a lot of things. But Bill Clinton, oh Bubba, I could sit and have a beer with that guy and just talk, you know, I don't know, sports or whatever. I'm not really terribly into, you know, most sports. I like a lot of rugby. A like Formula One. But yeah, poor Bill. That poor guy's just looking for a distraction. Have you seen his wife? You remember Hillary, right? There was a guy that worked in the White House. I worked radio with him. He wrote a couple of books one of them was called White House Confidential. Tells you all about the little secrets and cool things about the White House. Nothing, national secrets, but it was cool. Cool book. So yeah, this guy, the thing is, nobody liked Hillary Clinton. Why? Why did nobody like Hillary Clinton? Well, yeah, you ever notice that maniacal laugh of hers? Yeah, she's not bipolar. People say, oh, she's just bipolar. No. You don't fly into fits of rage where you're like, ready to grab a handgun and start shooting people. And then you're going, ha, 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 oh. Yeah, that woman's psychotic, okay? She's psychotic. And I understand why Bill married her, because, when she was younger, she was obviously better looking, I guess. But sex with the insane is fantastic. Hate to say it, and I'm going to be the first to do it, and I'm going to get banned on TikTok and everywhere else for saying this, but you know what? If your girlfriend hears voices in her head, yeah, she's not a keeper. You probably won't get more than 6 months out of it before it just drives you insane. Bill married his, and now she's become this like, oh, well, I'm from Arkansas, but I'm going to move to New York because there's an open seat. Yeah, you're a carpetbagger. Oh, but that's okay. They'll give it to me because I'm ordained, I'm the first lady. Yeah, they gave it to her. And then she wanted to be president. Didn't happen. Didn't happen, and here's why. Because the Obama machine, now there was a machine. The Obama machine was very special. The Obama machine was powered by and funded through and staffed with old members of these old terrorist groups, domestic terrorist groups from the 70s. You people don't remember them because you're young. I'm Gen X. I'm old enough to remember this. Weather Underground, Black Panthers, Symbionese Liberation Army, the SLA, Symbionese Liberation Army. They're the ones that kidnapped Patty Hearst and then brainwashed her into helping them doing bank robberies. In fact, I still can picture the security footage of her standing there holding a paratrooper M1 carbine. That's a small 30 caliber carbine. It's got a folding wire stock, right? So a paratrooper can carry it. I have an M1 carbine. It's a great gun. It hits with about the same power as and we've gone over this, about a 357 Magnum. It's a decent weapon. You don't want to get hit with it. But somehow they brainwashed her out of her, remember, she was kidnapped from her Berkeley University apartment. Yeah, she was going to Berkeley. Anyways, she was the heiress to the Hearst fortune. Now, you people probably don't know who the Hearsts are. Well, the Hearsts, they owned the Chronicle, the Examiner, several other newspapers around the country. In fact, back during the Spanish-American War, you had Pulitzer, who was running the New York newspapers, and Hearst, who was running the West Coast newspapers, and it was a big pissing match, and that's where yellow journalism came from, where they give you a headline and it says, so-and-so cuts the heads off of tourists, and then you read this article and it doesn't say anything about that at all. But Hearst famously told a reporter, he said, you give me the pictures and I'll give you the war. And they got the war. Anyways, so very powerful people. They kidnapped the heiress. The Black Panthers, I know from growing up in the Bay Area. Let's see, they shot a judge trying to free some guy, not free Willie, but free some dude's brother, who was, being arraigned or sentenced for a crime that was going to put him in San Quentin, some sort of robbery. Forget the details of it. The Weather Underground. Now these were the guys that Obama was really buzzed with when he announced that he was going to go ahead and be running for president. He was hanging out in the apartment of a member of the Weather Underground. These guys blew up a police station in New York in the 70s, killed a cop or two. So basically, they're murderers, right? They're terrorists. They blew up a cop station. Now they've been acquitted. They've been exonerated of all this. They've seen the error of their ways. They teach at universities now. Yes, they're tenured professors. My friend who was a Russian, I worked with him, Alex. He knows all about like old Russia, right? Not like old Russia when Russia was, under the czars, but like when Stalin and Lenin were around. They had a 50-year plan to take down the United States and capitalism. The whole point was this: look, we can't beat them in a war because capitalism raises way too much money, right? Look what the space race and the Cold War did. Okay, Gen X here, we won the Cold War. How did we do it? We drove them broke. President Reagan said, I'm going to do a Star Wars thing. We're going to put shit in space. They're like, damn, we can't do that. We can't even feed our own people. You ever see a communist grocery store? It's got like one thing in a bin and 9 people lined up looking at it going, kind of looks like crap. I don't know, you want it? You want it? You want it? Yeah. People were starving, okay? Communism. Oh, and don't give me well, that's just the wrong kind of communism. I hear this a lot from new people, young people, millennials, Gen Z. No, they were doing communist wrong. Marx wrote the book on it. That's the way it went. It has never worked, ever. What it does is, instead of like capitalism where you have a middle class that works like you and I do, I decided one day I didn't want to be poor anymore. So I got a job at a company that would send me to college. They sent me to college and wham, wow, I became middle class. Rather than raise up a bunch of people to middle class, communism brings everybody down, right? That's the way it works. No, we're all equal. We're all equally pissed. We're all equally poor. And life equally sucks. Except for the privileged few. Oh, we talk about the oligarchs. We heard AOC and Bernie. Remember, Bernie Sanders got married in Moscow or got a honeymoon in Moscow. He's a big fan of the communists. The moneyed few, the oligarchs, like say Stalin. He was. What was he? Well, he was actually a Georgian. He was from Georgia, not our Georgia, their Georgia, near Armenia and all that. Squeaky voiced little bugger. Didn't like giving public speaks. When Germany invaded, he went into a mental breakdown that lasted like 5-6 days. Didn't talk to nobody, didn't act, didn't give any orders to generals. The whole place got slaughtered for 5 days because he couldn't make a move because he was a peasant, right? He's a peasant farmer. But you know what he liked? Packards. Now you guys don't know what a Packard is. Okay. You know what a Cadillac is, right? Cadillac's a fancy schmancy car, right? All right. So picture a cross between a Cadillac and a Rolls Royce. But American. Because Rolls Royce is kind of special. So let's just say a Packard was a luxury brand of cars that was better than Cadillacs, right? Packard engines were so special and powerful that, in fact, in the PT boats in World War II, like PT-109, right? John F. Kennedy, PT-109. Those boats had 3 Packard motors in them. And that's how they were powered. They did 55 knots. That's fast. That's real fast. That's fast for a ship, okay? You, me, a bunch of our friends, we could get on that boat, put a bunch of toy torpedoes on there, race around San Francisco Bay, and shoot toy torpedoes, and they'd never catch us. They'd never catch us. Not at 55 knots. But these Packard cars were very luxurious. Stalin had 3 of them. You know how many cars the average, I don't know, Russian or Ukrainian or any other satellite state had? Yeah, they had a mule if they were lucky. At this time, if you had a tractor and you were a farmer, you were considered bourgeoisie, and they would confiscate your damn tractor, and you would go out there with a scythe like the rest of the poor people, and harvest your wheat that way. The first thing that they did when Lenin and Stalin and those cats came into power is they starved 11 million Ukrainians. Why? Well, because they don't like them. Because the Ukrainians didn't want to be communists anyways, but they were next door. So what are you going to do, right? Sort of like California, right? You're next door to Mexico. The border's open. What are you going to do? You're going to get flooded with Mexicans. Yeah, that's what happens. So they got shit on. But you know what? I want to talk about something else. We can talk about communism all day long and how it sucks. And all the young people think, no. Communism just hasn't been done right. Look. Okay, say we implement this communism that you think will be done right. Now, somebody's got to run it, right? It's not going to be me. You won't let me do it. I got way too many guns. I'll get irritated at someone, and I will unalive them, and I'll lose credibility. But who are they going to let it run? Someone's got to administrate this thing. Is it going to be you? Do you think they're going to let you do it? Well, it's not being done right. If it was done right, then it would work. You think they're going to listen to you? Who the hell are you? You didn't write any books. You didn't write the book on it. You don't know anything about it. You just been living vicariously through the dreams of some professor or hippie or some hippie chick that, hey, she was really good looking. And look, I got nothing against hippie chicks. I love hippie chicks. The only thing you gotta, I worked with the Grateful Dead. I lots of hippie chicks. They just need a good shave, but no, really, the only thing wrong with hippie chicks, you just gotta like Shawshank Redemption them, right? The beginning when Andy gets there, they put him in the cell, and they tell him to take off his clothes, and they hit him with the fire hose. Turn around, hit him again with the fire hose. Turn around, they dust him with DDT. Turn around, dust him with DDT. All right, here's your blanket, your clothes, your pillow, and your Bible. Follow the man down the road, the yellow line. Yeah. If you give him a good hosing down and and a bath of DDT to get the ticks off of them. They're great, man. I've dated hippie girls. They're beautiful people, harmless people. Which that's one thing that shocks me about this whole October 7th thing that the Palestinians did, right? Everyone says, "Oh, well, the Israelis deserved it, man. They've been oppressing the goddamn Gazans and blah blah." Look, man, Gaza was said to live there. You live here. We'll live here. Okay, cool. Seemed okay. Works every now and then. A friend of mine went to go train for my old industry in Israel, and they had to go many times into the basement of the building because there was missiles being launched. Now, these aren't missiles like, say, you go by from China or Russia or United States or even overglorified bottle rockets. What they were doing was your tax money, your taxpayer dollars, through companies like USAID and other UN things, they were building infrastructure in Gaza, which sounds great, right? Well, you tear up a street because nobody's got running water. Tear up a street, you lay water pipes, put the street back down, fill them full of water. Poof! Oh, look at that. Abuelita can go ahead and wash her clothes now. Everybody can cook. Hey, it's great, right? That's not the way Hamas looked at it. Here's what they did. And I only say this because my friend saw this. And it shocked me, right? I'm like, where are they getting these weapons? He's like, dude, they're making them. And I'm like, that's pretty slick, I mean, honestly, you think about like the Chinese, right? What have they given us since the abacus, gunpowder, what? What have they really, noodles? Other than that, what have they given us? Not a whole lot, right? They've copied the hell out of everybody else, but they haven't innovated in a long time. Well, I thought, wow, these guys are innovating. What are they doing? He goes, no, dude. The UN goes in there and they lay water mains down. It's a pipe about yay big around. Water main. It's good 2 feet across, or more. Well, they dig that right back up. They put a cone on the end of it, fill it full of explosives, pack the bottom end of it full of gasoline and alcohol. The Germans used to call that T-stuff. It's a very, very crude rocket motor. So they fill it full of petroleum and alcohol, and they put it on a ramp, and they point it towards Israel and light that bastard off, and off it goes. Next thing you know, my friend's training, and all these alarms go off. And they're like, hey, we got to go to the basement. Why is that? Oh, well, they're going to thing. This thing landed a block away from where he was training. It goes, boom! Because they put, like, I don't know, 500 kilograms of gelignite in it or something. It's not nitroglycerin because it'd blow up on the pad, right? They might be third world, 7th century ding-dongs, but they're not going to put nitroglycerin. It's more like gelignite or something a little more stable. Anyways, so a day later, he goes over there to check it out, and his trainer host is like, hey, what are you? I want to go see this thing. Being an engineer, he's interested. So he goes over there. Yeah, man, it's water mains. It's water pipe. It's the steel water main that was just installed by your tax dollars, my tax dollars, everybody else's tax dollars. And these guys dug it up. Now, oh, by the way, Abuelita and everybody else, they can't cook because the goddamn water main's gone because they took it out. To make a rocket to shoot towards Israel in the hopes that they might kill some, Israelis. Well, that's a pretty dick move. Pretty dick move. And we're gonna get to dick moves in a minute here. I've got the trophy. We're gonna do the segment that the new segment, the "Are You on Drugs" segment. Yeah, we're gonna do that. But we gotta talk about this. Look, they say free, free Gaza, free, free Gaza. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Ding dong. Do you know what river? I do. I know what river it is. I'm not going to say it because then you'll just repeat it and you'll think you're smart. And you're not. I've seen plenty of man on the street videos where they go, "Hey, what river?" And they go, "What sea?" Let me tell you something. My father was a sailor, and he told me that when he first met my mother back in '59, they were going to move out of the United States. You know they're going to move? Beirut. Yeah, you think of Beirut, right? Now you've got like Muslims, Christians, ding-dongs, Syrians, asshats. Everybody's fighting everybody else. My God's better than your God, da-da-da. It's a big shitstorm, right? Well, back in the 50s, man, it was the Las Vegas of the Mediterranean. There's your hint. It's the Mediterranean Sea, you idiots. But anyways, it was the Las Vegas of the Mediterranean. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city. My dad said we should move there. Thankfully, my mom talked him out of it. Both of them were German immigrants from after World War II. And they both came from countries that were bombed flat. And my mom was not excited about the idea of moving to Beirut because she was kind of clairvoyant and she saw, yeah, this ain't gonna last long, man. This Beirut, this Las Vegas, yeah, it's gonna look like Albuquerque in a minute. So they didn't. We stayed in California. But yeah, you know, these Palestinian folks, though, they, you know, river to the sea, river to the sea. So basically, their whole charter, Hamas. You can look up their charter. You can Google it. I'd Google it, but we're using the iPad. You can Google it. The charter, the original charter for Hamas, and their whole thing is, we got to wipe out Israel. All the Jews got to be gone. And then wait a minute, we already had a Holocaust. All right. 6 million people were put in boxcars, shipped off, and gassed. That's savage, dude. That's gangster, right? You just rounded people up. And here's what sucked about it. People say, "Oh, well, you know, and this is where we're going to get to the award." People would say, "Yeah, you know, everybody's kind of like barely eking by, except for the dude that like owns the bank, or the dude that owns those shops over there, or the dude that, you know, has made a." Basically, they were like the Asians of yesteryear, right? Think back to the Rodney King riots, right? Where the hell did they first go? Well, they tried to go to Westminster, California. Westminster, California is kind of Korean town. And what did you see there? You saw Korean dudes on top of their buildings shooting back at these black rioters. They weren't having it. They weren't having it, right? They didn't like the Koreans because, well, the Koreans, you know, they got all this money. They got money and this and that. Well, yeah, that's because they worked hard and they put their mind to it and they built a business. They, you know, built a clothing store. They built a furniture shop. They did something. They didn't sit around and bitch going, no, 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 I'm owed all this stuff. No, 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 no. No, they didn't. They just said, look, man, this is my lot in life. The whole point of the American dream, this is the whole point of America and what makes it great, is you can start with nothing. And it's up to you. It's up to you. We don't owe you anything, but you have the absolute freedom to say, here's an avenue. Go get a job at McDonald's. Well, why would I want to flip burgers? Here's why. Because they'll send you to college. They'll send you to college. You'll flip burgers for 4 years. Oh, yeah. I worked full time, 12-hour shifts. My company sent me to college and I got a degree. I didn't have a weekend for 3 years, but my salary more than tripled when I was done. So you can go to McDonald's and flip burgers, eat for free, get a lot of zits, and you can get a college degree in business or whatever. You don't have to stay there when you're done. There's no obligation. But you know what? I know a gal, she's a manager of McDonald's. She went that way. She makes about, now this is Idaho, so it's different in your state, right? When I say $76,000 take home, that doesn't mean a lot to you in San Francisco, right? But, hey, it was beating $7.75 an hour, right? So she went from $7.75 an hour to making $75,000 a year take home. That was her decision. She decided one day, I don't want to be poor anymore. So she got a job at McDonald's. They paid for her college. I got a job at a chip factory, not making potato chips. I found the science fascinating. The phone that you're probably watching me on right now, you're welcome, because I did the R&D for that flash memory that you're using right now. I've been doing it since 1997. Stack die, hybrid memory cubes, phase change memories, all that stuff. The little razor things that were real super thin, right? They're called, we called them razor technologies. It was a joint venture between us and a utility out of Australia. It was working great till we took it to a trade show and the Koreans and Chinese copied it. Immediately they bought one and said, we'd like to buy one. They bought one, they took it, they reverse engineered it, and then they dumped it on the market for 50% of what it cost to make. That's illegal. That's called dumping. They've been busted many times for it. Do they get put in jail or anything? No. Our government is feckless, international trade laws. International laws only apply to Americans, right? To that I say this. Look, it's only a war crime after the first time. Anyways, look. So let's get to this Wetzler guy. J.B. Wetzler, whatever his name is. He's the governor of Illinois. Because we're going off topic, and I do that because I have ADHD. Worked great when it was in radio, but now I'm trying to make a point. So this Wetzler guy, he's on TV. They're playing clips of it right now. He is, again, calling President Trump and basically everybody who's ever supported him. I voted for him simply because I think he's hilarious, right? And I like lower taxes. I don't like to have myself taxed to death for nothing. If I'm having my money taken away from me to pay for you because you don't want to do anything, like say, I don't know, get a job at McDonald's and make your own money and, get a degree. No, that's beneath you, then F off, okay? But don't sit there on welfare and bitch that I owe you money. Get off your ass and do something. This guy Wetzler, though, is calling everybody Nazis. Nazis, Nazis, Nazis. What caught my attention was this, and this is why he's getting the award. He said, I'm an expert on Nazis because I helped build the Holocaust Museum in Chicago or wherever. Let's think about that for a sec. I helped build the Holocaust Museum, so I'm an expert on Nazis. No. No, I'm sorry, you're not. You're not an expert on Nazis. You're an ass. Okay? Here's what you are. You're an expert on building museums. That's what you are. You built a museum. You helped build a museum, meaning you probably just threw money at it. You didn't do any of the research or any of that. You just threw money at it and said, look at me, I'm part of this. That's the way these politicians work. The guys, this JB governor of Illinois, you do realize, everybody hates billionaires, right? Trump's a billionaire, we hate him. This guy's a billionaire too. He's worth about $3 billion. You know what he owns? He owns Hyatt's, dude. Hyatt hotels. Yeah, Grand Hyatts? I love Hyatt hotels. Oh man, the only thing better is a Sheraton. But Grand Hyatts, if you ever get a chance, San Francisco, the Embarcadero. Go down there. They got a Hyatt. That's a nice hotel, man. I love that hotel. When I go to San Francisco and I'm staying in the city, I specifically stay at that hotel because I like it. It's got black marble bathrooms. I mean, it's nice, right? Yeah, this JB, governor of Illinois, yeah, he inherited all of that. That whole family has been inheriting down this Hyatt. Yeah. Oh, he didn't work for it. He's got it. I mean, he built it up a little bit, but yeah, he look. He's no expert on Nazis because he helped build a museum on the Holocaust. At best, that makes you an expert at hanging big pictures of starving, dying people. Okay. I belong to a group. I was a firearms dealer for 6 years. I belong to a group called JPFO, the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Why would I join that? I'm not Jewish. I'm German. Well, because though my family lived through that whole Nazi era in Germany, they weren't Nazis. My dad fought for the German army in World War II, but he wasn't a Nazi, he was a draftee. He's a combat engineer, but he was a draftee. The people of the JPFOs used to lobby, right? Like everybody lobbies, right? Sierra Club, everybody has a lobbying thing. They produce a pamphlet. They sent one to me, and all it was a picture of a bunch of starving Jewish people in a train car with the door open, half of them dead. I don't know. And all it said was, never again. Okay? Now, this is what ticks me off. This Pritzker guy, JB, he said, yeah, well, the first thing they did was, oh God, it was some nonsense bullshit. Basically coming out of the 1933 laws, Nuremberg laws, that he has no idea what's going on, right? He probably wouldn't understand what the Reinheitsgebot was either. That's a law from like the 1400s. It means purity law. Reinheitsgebot means what goes in, right? Law. That refers to beer. You can only have 4 ingredients in German beer, according to the Reinheitsgebot. Anyways, so this guy's saying, well, yeah, the first thing they did was they took away their what was it, their citizenship. They made it so they were able to be rounded up. No, that's not the first thing they did. No. Very first thing that they did in the 1933 laws under the Nazis when Hitler and all them took power. Trust me, I know these things. First thing they did was they took away their right to own a gun. Yep. Turn in all your damn guns. That's right. Then you couldn't intermarry into a non-Jewish family, a German family. So Jews had to stay married to Jews. Even if a German girl loved a Jewish boy, no, illegal. Sorry, 1933 law. That was it. Then, after that, they expanded on that, and you were not allowed to own property. So if you owned much like communists, right? Say you're a communist and you own a combine that helps you harvest wheat, they labeled you bourgeoisie and you were an oppressor, and they took that shit away from you. And then everybody starved. Well, that's what they did. Okay? They didn't take away citizenship until a little later. But the first thing they did was take away the right to own a gun. Because an armed society is a polite society. But they didn't want to be polite. They blamed everything on the Jews. It happened all over. Okay? It wasn't just Germany. My dad was in Ukraine, in Belarus, in France, Belgium, Holland, kind of as a visitor, with a lot of guns. Anyways, you know what they would do, the townsfolk? They would say, hey, you know what? That Jewish family's hiding over there in that building. And they'd go over there. Well, not my dad, not the troops. The troops were busy fighting, but they had these people called Einsatzgruppen. They were asshats from the SS that would go around and say, "Hey, you got any Jews?" And they'd do the purification, so to speak, right? They were the real jackwagons. My dad was a professional soldier. The soldiers could care less, right? It was the SS and these other people. We'll go into the SS in a sec. And Antifa. SS and Antifa. Are they the same? Why? Yes, they are. But we'll get to that. So anyways, these Einsatzgruppen, the soldiers would come in, kick ass on the, say they go into France. France rolls over, plays dead. The real soldiers come in, they're like, da-da-da, okay, we win. Here comes the Einsatzgruppen right behind them. Where are the Jews? Oh yeah, they're hiding in that building over there. You know why? Because all the townspeople wanted their shit. The moment that family was picked up, the rest of the town would go over and loot that house of everything of value. That's what happened. It was jealousy. It was class envy. They owned a tailor shop. They owned a butchery. They owned something. Maybe they owned a car. Not a Packard like Stalin, but they owned something. And it rubbed people the wrong way, right? Because there's this thing that's innately, and the Democrats do this a lot. Class envy. Tax the rich, tax the rich. Why? What if I worked for every last thing I mean, I'm not working now. I'm living on my savings. Why do I have savings? Because I was smart and I put shit away. Should I be taxed? Should I be taxed mercilessly? Should I give my money to you? No, I worked for it. Everything I have, I worked for, okay? My parents died when I was young. I had to work. There was no safety net for me. I had to do it. Why should I give it to you? Why should I give it to someone who broke into this country illegally, shouldn't be here in the first place, and now is infecting the elementary school with tuberculosis? Oh, great. Let's see. There's a disease we knocked out in the 50s, but it's back. Yeah. Why am I paying for that? I didn't do it. What the hell's he doing here, anyways? Oh well, we let him in because he's looking for a better. No, dude. He snuck in. He's a criminal. Get him out. Sorry. Get him out. Anyways, so these Einsatzgruppen would come in, take him away. Everybody else would loot the shit. And it happened everywhere. My dad said it was in the Ukraine, it was in Belarus, it was everywhere. Everywhere. The strangest thing was the Ukrainians welcomed my father and his people at first as liberators because they hated the Russians so much. The Russians were dicks to the Ukrainians. They were dicks. The first thing Lenin did was starve 11 million of them by seizing all their farm equipment. And then, just to be dicks, they took their shoes in winter in case they boiled them for the leather. Also, Moscow could eat, and Moscow could live normally, right? 11 million people just wiped out. So when you say like, oh well, the Ukrainians are overreacting, no, the Russians have been dicks to them forever. Talk about the Crimea. You guys don't know what the Crimea is, do you? Crimea is a peninsula. It was Ukrainian. Sticks out into the Black Sea. Long story short, it's basically Eastern Europe's version of Hawaii. When rich Russian people like, Kalashnikov, the guy who invented the AK-47, he didn't get rich. He got a medal and he got a house in the country. That's what he got for inventing the AK-47. Meanwhile, Eugene Stoner, the guy that invented the AR-15, which does not stand for automatic rifle, it stands for Armalite rifle. Armalite was the company that built it. He got rich. But Kalashnikov, he got something called a dacha. It's a country house. Now, they're pretty much all on the Black Sea because it's beautiful there. My dad was there. He said it was gorgeous. Sevastopol is the name of the city there. They didn't want to cough it up, the Russian army. They didn't want to cough it up. They thought they were badass because there was a battleship once that had a mutiny. They didn't want to be communists. The battleship Potemkin. Well, they went off and executed the crew. And the communists did. But then nobody knew how to sail a battleship. Oh boy, wasn't that smart? You executed the crew, nobody had to sail. So what do you got? You got a big hunk of useless junk. Well, they took the like 12-inch guns, 14-inch guns, main battlement guns. They took them off. They built a concrete casemate in Sevastopol, near the water, to defend it from the ocean. But remember, these are turrets. They can swing 360, right? And they're big, deep concaves of thick concrete. Germans showed up and said, hey, dudes, you got a beautiful city. It's very historic. It's gorgeous. It's like Hawaii. Weather's great. Man, we don't want to blow this place up. Why don't you do like the French and just say, hey, Paris, it's historic. It's an open city. Don't fuck it up. And just roll in. The Russians said, no, we've got guns. And they turned those turrets around and started shooting at the Germans. Well, Hitler had a lot of stupid ideas. One of them was a giant railway cannon, which my dad had to build tracks for. Now, it's not just your regular railway. It's actually 4 pieces of railway because this gun is so damn big. It took 500 people to operate. It would launch a shell 30 miles, right? This thing's shooting Volvos. This thing's shooting 2,200 pound, 2,500 pound shells. They're big. It's like shooting a Volvo, right? So they'd park it in a railway tunnel so that the planes couldn't spot it, and then they'd wheel it out. And they'd go boom and wheel it back in. So they're shooting a whole dealership full of Volvos at this place. And they finally said, okay, God damn, man. They had to level the city. And my father was so upset. He said, you know, we could see it through the binoculars. Beautiful city. Minarets everywhere, you know, historic stuff built in the 1500s, 1400s, right? Had to destroy it. Why? Pride. Russian pride. They said no. What choice did they have, man? I mean, look, they had these giant railway cannons, big deal. That's a novelty. What they did have was freaking Tiger tanks, Stuka dive bombers, and a lot of very enthusiastic Germans that wanted to get the hell home or onto the beach on the Black Sea. So you could either quit, take off, quit, be imprisoned, or fight it out. And they fought it out because they had these battleship cannons. They thought they were badass. Well, that big Bertha thingy that with the railway cannon, yeah, that hit it. Eventually, it hit it. I mean, it's not easy to spot artillery 30 miles away, but yeah, when you see a secondary explosion go kaboom, yeah, you hit it. Hit the magazine, destroyed it. So now they got their no more battleship cannon, so they got to give it up. And then came after that, you know, Dad's out there with his buddies, sunning on the beach. Here comes the Einsatzgruppen. Hey, where are the Jews? Where are the Jews? And all the townspeople are like, over there. Where do they live? Over there. Where are they over there? Because they're hiding over there. Okay, cool, thanks. They go get them, and all the townspeople go and loot their shit. So that's kind of a, you know, how the whole Nazi system in war worked, right? Not all Germans were Nazis. You had these fanatics, like the Einsatzgruppen, the SS. Oh, let's talk SS. Okay, so the SS, the Schutzstaffel. It's like a stormtrooper, right? At first, they were laughed at by regular troops like my dad, because those guys were just Nazis. They were political do-gooders, right? You know, they were shitty soldiers. But you stick somebody in combat for 3 years straight, and they get, those that live, they get pretty good at it. So you had, you know, SS panzer groups and this and that and whatnot and so forth. And towards the end, yeah, they were pretty formidable. They still weren't as good as like the Grenadiers, you know, or regular Wehrmacht soldiers, because they were you gotta remember, there used to be a thing called a professional soldier, right? You grew up, your family had a history of soldiering, right? Germany had a long line of that when they had a place called Prussia. It's in Poland now. It's actually where my dad's from, Prussia. And that's another thing. Germany didn't invade Poland to start World War II. First of all, the Japanese started. Actually, the Italians started it. But Italians and Japanese started World War II. But the big thing where France and Britain got involved, it wasn't Germany invading Poland. You need to read a history book. Remember, there was a treaty signed right before then with Stalin and von Ribbentrop. It's the foreign minister of Germany. Non-aggression pact, right? Well, Hitler violated it, of course. What they did, though, was they split Poland in half. See, Russia didn't like the Poles either. Russia hated the Poles. Russia loathed the Poles. The Poles were an old monarchy. It's been a kingdom for a long, 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 long time. They just keep getting the shit invaded out of them. That's why, in fact, when all the Syrian refugees marched up into Europe, Poland said no and built a fence. And their answer was, we've been invaded enough in the last few hundred years. We will not take 2.5 million Syrian refugees just because the EU tells us to. No, we're building a fence and we militarized our border. And that's what they did. So did Hungary, in fact, because they had had enough. They also, same problem, always invaded by the bigger guy next door. In their case, Austria. But this JB governor guy, he's an expert on Nazis because he helped build a Holocaust museum. No, that makes you an expert on donating money to museums. So for that, we are awarding you, JB Pritzker, we are awarding you the Greta Thunberg Trophy of Tolerance, Acceptance, and Diversity, and being a douchebag. You can decorate it, you can sit on it, lubed or not. After listening to you talk, I think you're probably gonna want this end first. Because you're calling people Nazis, you say you're an expert, you're a freaking idiot, okay? You're a freaking idiot from Illinois who helped build a museum, so I'm an expert. No, you're not. No, you're absolutely not. You didn't grow up hearing the stories. You didn't meet the people that were there. You didn't go and, see the actual places. Pritzker, have you ever been to Germany? Probably not, huh? And if you have, where'd you go? Munich? Oh God, Munich. Munich's a neat place. It's very clean, it's very sterile, it's very different. I remember looking around at a town square and I was marveling at the architecture and I said, Mom, I was with my mom, I said, Mom, wow, look at these old buildings, because we'd been to places like Rothenburg and these are 500-year-old cities, right? And she goes, no, honey. No, those are all brand new. And I go, what do you mean? Look at them. They're old. She goes, no, honey. I stood right here in 1945, and this place was bombed flat. There was nothing but piles of rubble. The only thing that saved this place is that they didn't hit the building where the damn blueprints were kept for all the damn buildings. So the builders were able to come back, get the blueprints, and rebuild. And that's why Munich looks the way it does in the old sections. I was a little heartbroken about that. All right? I was a little heartbroken about that. I mean, I went to Hamburg, very modern city, very cosmopolitan. Kind of like a Chicago, right? Very cosmopolitan city. That place wasn't bombed flat, it was burned flat. They burned that sucker to the ground. Well, we did. Americans. Well, British and Americans. We would drop high explosive bombs and then follow them up with incendiaries. So you'd drop a big explosive and it would blow things apart. And then you drop an incendiary on top of it and start everything on fire. They killed 70-something thousand people in a weekend, made 1.5 million homeless. And the whole point was, well, we're going to put the factory workers out of homes. That'll slow the war effort. By late 1944, they were producing more aircraft and more tanks than they had in 1942. Flawed. Flawed was your logic there, old Bomber Harris. The British head of the Bomber Command was named Harris. They called him Bomber Harris. His famous quote is, if we'd lost the war, I'd be a war criminal. Yeah, Yeah, kind of, probably. I mean, but so would we. Tokyo. We firebombed Tokyo. You know, we killed 100,000 people, right? And that was just in a weekend, right? Curtis LeMay's idea. He was a famous general, Air Force guy. He says, nope, we're taking the B-29s were flying at 30,000 feet. They were dropping bombs, and we didn't know about the jet stream. Japanese did. We didn't. So the bombs would fall, and they'd go whoop and fall over here. We couldn't hit shit. Jordan bomb site, didn't matter. All of a sudden, 5,000 feet below the aircraft, there's a 250 mile an hour wind blowing everything that way. Yeah, we didn't know about that. Japs did, though. So Curtis LeMay said, nope, we're taking the bombers down to 5,000 feet. The pilots and crews nearly had an aneurysm because now they're going to be anti-aircraft fire, fighter planes, all that. He goes, no, it's cool. We're going to do it at night. We're going to do it at night. Well, how are we going to know what we're hitting? Doesn't matter. You're going to carpet bomb it. And you could see the glow from 350 miles away. That city burned so hard. 100,000 people dead. The firebombing of Tokyo killed more people than the atomic bomb. One killed 76,000-ish. The other killed 80, 90-ish. Yeah. Tokyo fire raid was way worse. Way, way worse. We had to drop those nuclear bombs because every man, woman, and child was prepared to fight. To reverse that, you got to think of it this way. Admiral Yamamoto, the guy that he designed the Pearl Harbor attack, he was a brilliant tactician, smart guy, educated in the United States, lived here many years, went to college here, understood Americans, and understood our capabilities. And he said, look, I can give you 6 months to a year, we can run havoc. After that, once they tool up, I promise nothing. And he famously said when they hit Pearl Harbor, I'm afraid all we've done is awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve, right? But he said he would never invade the United States because we were all worried about West Coast invasion, right? So every now and then a submarine would pop up off the coast. They shelled the oil plants at Goleta near Santa Barbara. They shelled right at the California-Oregon border. Freaked people out, man. They thought, oh my God, here come the Japanese. Yamamoto said, no, we can't do it. And they said, why not? All the generals were gung-ho. Why not? It's just another country of dumb, lazy Americans, right? Remember, we're dumb and stupid. We're too busy partying. He says, no. I fear if we invaded the United States, there would be a weapon behind every blade of grass. That's what he said. Why? Because we have the Second Amendment. You, me, we all own guns. A lot of us have seen Red Dawn, right? Where the kids get together and take out the Cuban and Russian people, right? You know? Yeah. There's just some truth to that. There's some truth to that. Yeah. You know, like, say October 7th happened, right? Like Israel got assaulted by a bunch of assholes. What did they attack? A music festival. Supernova, it was called. Supernova Music Festival. Dude, it's a bunch of hippies. It's a music festival. They attacked hippies. The most sweetest, I mean, they need a bath, but the sweetest, kindest, put a flower in your hair and let's dance. You know, here, put this on your tongue, right? Come back in an hour and we've all dance, right? We've all been to a Dead show or a Fish show or some, Dave Matthews. We've all been to a music festival, right? Okay, everybody's high, everybody's having a good time, the vibe is cool. Now, here come these jackwagons with all these weapons. I mean, they're raping and they're arping and murdering people by the thousands. What was it? 1,200, 2,000, something like that. And they took all these hostages back. Just finally got the hostages back. They freed Palestine. They got the Hamas to sign a deal. Okay, there you go. Ceasefire. Free, right? Not for the paid protesters. That's not good enough for them. They weren't even there. Hamas signed it. Oh, they'll go back on their word. They will. They will, because it's the same reason none of their neighbors want them. Egypt, Jordan, Syria, they'd all welcome these Palestinians if they didn't do this. They sit around on welfare and bitch and cause problems. So they don't want them. That's why none of the neighbors want the Palestinians around, because they're dicks. Okay? The dicks. They expect to just be, oh, you owe me this. No, we don't owe you shit, dude. And one of the reasons I voted for Trump was because I liked the way he pissed everybody off and said, hey, you know what we ought to do? We ought to kick out the damn Palestinians, let them go wherever the flip they want. Whoever will take them can have them, or they can stay there and work at the new hotels we're going to build. Because you know what? Gaza is really nice beachfront property. If they weren't assholes about it and living in a slum, we're going to be a welfare slum. Israel owes us. No. We're going to sit here and collect welfare checks. No, man, if they actually got off their asses and did stuff like we can do here in the United States, right? Go get a job at McDonald's, get a college degree, say it's in business, go start your own business. You can do that, right? Why don't they? Why don't they take their kick-ass oceanfront property and open a parasailing business, take people on glass-bottom boat tours, prize fishing. It's the Mediterranean, right? It's beautiful. Mediterranean is a beautiful ocean. It's full of turds, but it's still beautiful. It's still beautiful. And that pissed everybody off. Kind of like the Gulf of America, right? I'm going to rename it the Gulf of America. And while the media was flipping out, lighting their hair on fire, he was turning around and solving the war in the Congo. See, that's what I like about him. He's hilarious. He pisses everybody off and creates such a diversion that he can get some real work done. That's not a Nazi. That's not a fascist. That's a smart dude. That's a smart dude. And what? So Trump's worth what? $1 billion something? You know that Pritzker guy, JB, the expert on Nazis, I looked it up. He's 3.3 billion. I thought you don't trust billionaires. But he's okay because he hates Trump? No. He's an ass. And he gets the Greta Thunberg trophy of tolerance, acceptance, and diversity. And I want you to know I'm being held hostage by the Israeli government. If the Swedish government hears this, and then the very next video I see on YouTube is a guy, hi, I'm Sven so-and-so, and I'm a cop, and I'm from Sweden. I'm in Sweden, and I'd just like to give a message to the Israeli government. Please keep Greta. We've had her for many, many years here. We're completely sick and tired of her and her damn mouth. Would you please keep her? that speaks to our final point: fatigue. You know, it started off with black fatigue, right? After the summer of love, they called it. Summer of riots. Come on, man. Dude, I grew up in San Francisco. I know what the summer of love is, okay? 2020 and all that. Yeah, that wasn't it, man. Those were riots. Those were riots. Let's see. The George Floyd thing, what was it? 300 something people were killed overall in that. Charlie Kirk got murdered. There was no riots. Nobody got killed. January 6th. Oh my God. The insurrection at the Capitol. You know, Trump said, "Hey, Nancy, do you want me to send 10,000 troops over?" No, 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 no. And then then she's all pissed off because she got scared because these people were getting in. One person died, an Air Force veteran, and she was shot by a Capitol police officer who wasn't even looking where he was going. He shoved his arm through a broken window on a door and just started firing, and he hit this woman. I saw a video of it. His gun comes out and he goes bang, and he blew this right in the cranium. Got her. That was the only person that died on January 6th. That was not an insurrection. That was a bunch of pissed off people who thought that really the election was stolen. And you know what? It's not politically correct, and I'll blow all my credibility saying it. I didn't like that election. And I'll tell you why. I have never, ever, ever, and I've been voting since 1986. Okay? I have never, ever waited in line like I have to vote in that 2020 election. I even made a little video of it. It's like the only difference between waiting in line here and waiting in line at a rock concert is that at a rock concert, at least everybody's high. Right? I mean, I stood in line. I go to a church nearby. This line was 300 yards long. And I've been living in this particular place for over a decade. And I always walk right in, say hi to the ladies, grab a cookie, fill out my stuff, grab another cookie, get my sticker. I have voted. Yeah. It's easy peasy Japanesey. No, not 20th. And it wasn't a bunch of people going, oh, we hate Trump, we hate Trump. No. Someone would go, Trump, and everyone would start screaming. It was like being at an AC/DC concert when someone yells, Angus, and everyone goes, yeah, right? Yeah, it was like that. It's kind of a party atmosphere. And from what I'm told by friends around the country, it was the same way. But then you had this voter harvesting thing. Now I worked in the semiconductor industry for many, many years. So we're dealing with like stuff on the nanometer level, right? So I use a lot of statistical process control, okay? For those of you who understand statistical process control, I won't go into the great detail of it. But let's put it this way. If I give you a sample of 300,000 data points, and they all say that, not that, you're going to go, something corrupt here. Not even one outlier. Out of 300,000 points, not one outlier. They dropped off 300,000 ballots. Where was it? Arizona, Chicago? One of those wonderful swing states. It was a harvesting operation. Guy shows up. Oh, I got all these ballots. Dumped them in a box. 300,000 of them. Not one outlier. Not one vote for Trump. Out of 300,000. That's impossible, okay? That's statistically impossible. I have worked with things that go like clockwork, man, like clockwork. And out of 300,000 tries, it's going to hiccup once, at least once, right? If they'd have thrown in 5 or 10 that said, hey, yeah, Trump, I would have said, okay, all right, you got me. You don't get a clean 300,000 anywhere. That's why it's suspect to me. And that happened several places around the country. Oh, it wasn't stolen. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, so it wasn't stolen, but there was something fishy about it. I'm sorry. Just because of that fact alone, you cannot have a sample of 300,000 and not have one outlier. They call them flyers. Someone who filled out their ballot wrong, even. And it said Mickey Mouse. Nope, none of that. Everything perfect for Joe Biden. Joe Biden. I'm Gen X. I'm old enough to remember Joe Biden. I'm old enough to remember Joe Biden as a racist Democrat whose best buddy was Strom Thurmond, a KKK guy, another Democrat. Remember all your KKK and all that? That was all run by the Democrats, right? Remember that, right? Yeah. Yeah, they flipped the script in the 60s because they were losing and they wanted the black vote. So tell me something. Since the 60s, what has the Democrats done for the blacks? Has they made their lot in life any better? Oh, there's less discrimination. Really? I hear nothing but systemic racism. I hear nothing but that it's gotten worse. So why are you voting for Democrats if your shit's getting worse? Or systemic racism's not going away. Problem with racism is this. Racism is an idea, okay? I don't like zucchini. So I made it into a trophy for Greta Thunberg. Hopefully she'll come and pick it up one day. And because she seems so infertile, I won't use a latex cover for it. But J.B. Pritzker can come and get the fat end of it because he's Mr. I'm a Nazi expert because I built a museum for the Holocaust. That's like saying I'm an expert on the Philadelphia Eagles because I built the Hall of Fame for the Kansas City Chiefs. Speaking of racism, you ever notice how the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, he's got all these endorsements all over the place? What happened to the Eagles guys, man? They won. They kicked butt. They won. Go Birds. You don't hear that very often. Go Birds, man. Those guys kicked ass. They deserved that win. They beat the snot out of Mahomes and all that, but Mahomes gets all these TV commercials. That's racism. Why? Well, it kind of reminds me of, as we used to say in the olden days, when racism wasn't, every little thing. He's like Mariah Carey. He's mulatto. He's like pork, the other white meat. But let's get back to Pritzker. We got to close this out. It's been an hour. I don't want to keep you forever. I've been rambling. I enjoy your company, and I hope you enjoy mine. Please like and subscribe. I got a whole 11 followers. I'd like to make more, okay? I did radio for years. Got out of that because I saw that the left was tilting everything. It started with the wire services, and then they just got blatant with it, and I couldn't be involved in it. I had to rewrite everything. Then I'd get in trouble for rewriting it and giving you straight news. Don't you want straight news? Don't you want to know about the gas line explosion in the street, or the school shooting, or the carjacker? Here's a kicker. The carjacker. You can always tell it's a black man or a person of color when they say, and the police are looking for a 35-year-old man running away last seen wearing a black hoodie and blue jeans and white tennis shoes. If it's a white guy, they'll say they're looking for a Caucasian man. He's about 35 years old and he's wearing a black hoodie. Look for that next time. Remember I promised that I'd teach you how to spot stuff in the news? There's your first tip, okay? When they are looking for a criminal and they say, we're looking for a man who carjacked this car. We're looking for a man in his 20s and he ran off. It's a black guy. It's going to be a black guy. This started in the 80s and 90s, okay? I was scolded for saying a Negro. You used to be able to say Negro because you have Caucasians, Negroes, Hispanics, right? Well, no, I got scolded. I got scolded by a news director, Charlie Stone, jackass. I think he's dead now. He's an old man. Stick with the script. Well, the script was wrong. It came off the Associated Press newswire, and I could clearly see here on back when CNN ran news that the guy running away was black. So if people are looking for him, might as well tell him he's black. Like if he's white, right? If he looks like me, then tell him he's wearing an army jacket. He's a white guy. He's about 50 years old, and you know, help the public, help the police, right? Nope. No. Nope. If Charlie Stone was still alive, I'd give him the Greta Thunberg Award. The Greta Thunberg Award. You know, I'm going to build a stand for this thing, I think, so we could sit it up like this or like this in case Pritzker shows up, so they can sit gently on it and join us in a conversation. If you'd like to join us in a conversation, please. I don't read the comments as often as I should, and I'm sorry. I've been very, very busy. Frankly, honestly, and I'll be honest with you, I just got my driver's license back. Yay. I was a bad boy. I made a mistake. I'm seeking therapy, and I attend rehab. I'm not going to do stupid things and win stupid prizes. I have a really beautiful sports car that I can't insure right now because I need an SR22. So I drive a Mazda, which is fine. Maybe I should get a Greta Thunberg Award. Oh, I couldn't fit this. I'm from San Francisco, and I still couldn't fit this. But Greta, our hero Greta, today we dedicate your cucumber, your zucchini, to Pritzker, the Nazi expert. The Nazi expert because he built a museum. He helped build. Nobody asked him. See, that's the thing. That's what's wrong with journalism today, right? If I was standing in that press scum, they call it a scrum, right? You got a bunch of reporters standing around there asking questions. Oh, I know about Nazis because I helped build a museum on the Holocaust. I would have immediately shouted, "Excuse me, sir, what was your role in the construction of that? I mean, did you swing a hammer? Did you pour concrete? Or did you just give money and stand there and take a shovel on the first day and go like that?" You know, that make you an expert. You know, do you have any Holocaust survivors in your family? Have you ever met any? You ever met any? My mom had a friend, real nice lady. She had a tattoo right here, numbers. Holocaust survivor. She was like 8. She was 8 years old and they gave her a tattoo. I had an aunt, my mom's cousin. I had an aunt. I got to meet her once. This was still when there was an East and West Germany. And I asked her, I said, "Wow, Tante, how did you, get out of there?" And she said, "Oh, Peter, I'm an old woman. I can technically contribute nothing to the state. So they're not worried about me if I like come over and decide to defect. Because I'm a 70-something-year-old woman. What good could I possibly be?" That's another beauty of communism. Once you get old or get hurt or whatever, you're useless to them and they will just cut you loose. Cut you loose. Again, it doesn't bring the bottom up, it brings the middle down. Right? So don't listen to these people who think like, oh yeah, well, you know, communism's great, fascism sucks, I'm joining Antifa. Yeah, let's see, the fascists were started because everybody in Europe saw what happened in 1918 in Russia, and they didn't want that to happen in their country. Millions were murdered. They didn't want that to happen. Communists are ruthless, they're boorish, they're uncultured, they're uncivilized, they have no goddamn morals, and they could care less. It's the state or nothing, and the state just means the few dudes in power. You kill enough people for the few dudes in power, maybe you'll get a Packard, right? They're jackasses that way. If you look at the Antifa, though, Antifa is following the exact same playbook as the SA. What are the SA? Gosh, learn some history, children. Before the SS, there was a group called the SA, also known as the Brown Shirts. They were the paramilitary arm, they were the thugs for the Nazi Party, headed by a guy named Ernst Röhm, who actually happened to be gay. But yeah, they were the private army, so to speak. They were just thugs. They weren't really an army. The Schutzstaffel, they were armed. And you know, speaking of armed and, you know, well dressed and all that, you know, the brown shirts had brown shirts and blah 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 blah. But the SS, I mean, that's like, think about the Marine Corps dress uniform. That's a sharp looking uniform, right? That's good looking. I got friends that are Marines. They could be the ugliest sons of bitches in the world. You put on that uniform, that's a damn good looking uniform, right? Well, those German army uniforms, yeah, that's a pretty sharp piece of kit there. My dad told me, oh, they're beautiful for marching and parading and all of that. Lousy in the wintertime. When the snow's up to your tits, they're no good. You know who they were designed by? Designed and made by. He built a whole new factory to cover the demand for it. I don't hear any calls for boycotts. In fact, I see his name written on Formula One cars. Hugo Boss. Yeah. Hugo Boss. Remember I told you about the big cannon that shelled Sebastopol, bombed it flat after they wouldn't cough it up? Yeah, your coffee maker made by Krupp, K-R-U-P-P, Krupp. Krupp was a weapons manufacturer in World War II. They made everything. The M1 Abrams tank, our tank, the barrel is made by a company called Rheinmetall. They've been making barrels for tanks since, yeah, the Tiger. I don't hear any calls for boycotts on that. You know, I'm sure all the American soldiers would be pretty pissed off if we made them change barrels on those tanks. They like their M1 Abrams tanks. I like my Krupp coffee maker. Works good. it's not going to bomb any Ukrainian cities. Actually, that's sad. Russia stole Ukraine. They stole Sebastopol and the whole Crimea Peninsula in 2014 under Obama. What did Obama do? Nothing. Obama told Medvedev, the foreign minister, hey, tell Putin to hold off until after the election. I got an election to worry about. So he did. And then they took Crimea. Basically, they invaded Hawaii. It sucks. It's a nice area of the world. It's very pretty. Very nice. You'd like it. You'd like it. If you were to go to Sebastopol and hang out down there on the Black Sea, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And they stole it. And now, because they had to, there was no land route to get there. They had to fly, the Russians. That's why they're invading now. They're invading this part of the country so they'll have a land bridge so they can drive. That's why. That's why it's there. It's none of this, oh, well, all those people speak Russian. Really? A bunch of people in California speak Mexican. Are we giving it back? No, we won it in a war. That's ours. That's our state. We won it. Sorry. You want it back? FAFO. You can F around and find out. Come and get it. Come and get it. Molan Labe. It's like the Texans at the Alamo told the Spanish when the Spanish said, hey, or the Mexicans, Santa Anna, hey, you stole our cannons. Yep. We want them back. Come and get them. You know, it's just an American thing. Screw you. Come and get them. J.B. Pritzker, you're not an expert on Nazis. Please stop calling people Nazis and fascists. This is bad, okay? What you're doing is, when you call somebody a Nazi, you're doing two things. One, you are disrespecting and dishonoring the memory of the millions of people that died in the Holocaust. Mind you, communism killed 80 million people. And the Germans killed, what, 6 million Jews plus 12 million gypsies and whatnot and so forth. Anyways, look, you're dishonoring the memory of those people, okay? You cheapen it. You cheapen it. And second of all, we know what you're doing because we all lived through COVID. You're freaking trying to gaslight us. You're gaslighting people. And that's such a punk move now. Oh boy, yeah, I'm gonna gaslight this guy. You're an ass. It's a dick move. And gaslighting somebody. Who does that shit? Oh my God, you don't believe in that. Put on your mask and follow the science. Well, the science was wrong. And as a Gen X person, you know what? We didn't trust your shit in the first place, and now we certainly aren't going to trust you. We didn't trust politicians when we were kids. We didn't trust advertising when we were kids. We had to sit and learn everything for ourselves because we were latchkey kids. We were Gen X. We're, disaffected. Like we don't care. Yeah, you know what? We don't care. We don't care because everybody was dicks. And you know what? You want to gaslight us? Gaslight us. Come get your zucchini there, big boy. Maybe if you say please, we'll apply it. And we'll do that live right here on Flyover Dispatches. I'm your host, PC Pedro, and J.B. Pritzker needs to come and get his award. Nah, I think it's Greta this way. I don't think Greta would be interested. Don't you think? That is the most asexual woman. And when I say asexual, I'm not like trying to build a gender. What I'm thinking of is like an aphid, right? An aphid. You get roses and plants in your garden. You see those little green bugs all, and they're killing your plants. They're aphids. They are asexual. They do not have sex. They do not procreate that way. They're born pregnant. That's it. They don't need to have sex. They don't have any sex organs. They don't have any desire, need, will, or whatever. I think Greta Thunberg is asexual. I don't think she has a fetus growing inside of her. I think she's got maybe a tumor growing inside her. But I don't wish that on anybody. My mom died of cancer. But maybe it's a tumor shaped like a baby. Maybe the baby it is not a tumor. Whatever, doesn't matter. Bad joke. But what's wrong with that chick? I mean, does she have a boyfriend? Is she a lesbian? She's got to be a lesbian, right? She's got to be a lesbian. Because, let's face it, do you want to be the guy? Think about it. Think about it. Listen to that girl talk. That young woman talk. She's not a girl now. She's a young woman, so we can make all the fun we want. You have to sit and listen to her pontificate all day long, all night long, to get a piece of that ass, and she probably doesn't shave or anything. She's probably got just bush. She's probably got more bush than She's probably got more bush than She's probably got more bush than Crawford, Texas. There you go. There's your joke for the day. For those of you who don't know, kids, Crawford, Texas is where George Bush has his ranch. So she's got more bush than Crawford, Texas. And I'm not making fun of Texas. I love Texas. Love Texas. Lockhart. If you ever get a chance, go to Lockhart. It's about 25 miles south of Austin. Best barbecue on the planet. Doesn't matter which place you go to. Blacks, Krutz's, Smitty's. They've all been around for 100 years. Can't go wrong. Try them all. Mr. Pritzker, you are not an expert on Nazis because you helped build a museum. Okay? What that makes you is a helper builder of museum experts. Please come get your Greta Thunberg trophy. And we'd like to ask you, are you on drugs? Because only somebody high has to come up with that kind of thing. Oh, I'm an expert because I helped build a museum. No, you're on crack. Maybe you're not on crack. I think maybe it's Valium with you. Something has altered your reality, Mr. Pritzker, because you're not an expert on Nazis or fascism. You're an expert on being fat. You're an expert on hotels. Your family's hotels. and they're nice hotels. I like Hyatt's. You do good there, but don't ever please speak of Nazis and fascism ever again like you're some sort of authority. I'm more of an authority than you, and I wasn't even there. I mean, I've been to Germany several times, but my parents had to live through it, and they survived it, and I got to hear all the stories, right? You know, my mom actually could make her own clothes. You know why? Because when there's no Macy's, because it's been bombed flat, the whole city's a pile of rubble, you learn to make your own shit. So yeah, I can sew. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. Nazism isn't great. It's not great, but it's, you know what? Not communism. And these anti-fascists, they're communists. They are. That's why they're anti-fascist. Fascists and communists have been going at it like cats and dogs since the 1910s. They hate each other. Why? Control of you. Well, not necessarily you. Control of your dollar, your earning power, your means of production. If the state owns and controls the means of production, then they can tell you when you're going to go to work. So, if we need to have X and X and X amount of Greta Thunberg posters, then you know what? You're going to work until we have that many. That's what communism does, right? Quotas, shit like that, right? Doesn't matter. You get hurt on the job, sorry, walk it off. That's a very Gen X thing. Walk it off. I'll leave you with this thought. Gen Z, millennials, so sensitive, so easily offended. I know I'll lose my TikTok account. Probably lose my YouTube. But you know what? Imagine these people who are offended by every little thing. You said the N-word. You said this word. You misgendered me. You used my dead gender name. Imagine these people storming the beaches of Normandy, right? The ramp drops down, Omaha Beach. Here they come running out. There's 5 smart-ass Germans up on the hill going, "Excuse me, ma'am. You misgendered me." And they all stop and cry. We'd all be speaking German and Japanese. That's hard to learn. I don't know if I could do that. Anyways, look, kids, do your homework, all right? Think about what these people are telling you. I'm trying to help you with, resolve, and I'll do dedicated things, I promise. And they won't be 4 hours long. But, here's your example, your first example, like this Pritzker guy, right? He's going off calling Trump a Nazi. And everybody goes, "Yeah, he's a Nazi, man. Trump's a Nazi. He's a fascist." No, he's not. He's not a fascist, first of all. First of all, define fascism. And then you'll see he's not a fascist, okay? I'm an expert because I helped build a museum. There's your key, right there. There's your key. You're an expert because you helped build a museum. Hey, you know what? I helped build a farm out here, a cattle ranch. Yeah, I put some trusses together and helped nail them up. Do I know anything about birthing calves? No. The only thing I know about calves is that veal is delicious. That's all I know. That's all I know. I'm not an expert on cattle farming because I put a truss up or, stood up a wall on a barn. I'm not. And Pritzker is no expert on Nazis because he helped with a museum and he didn't specify how he helped, I mean, if he did research and collected stories and interviewed survivors, and that's time-consuming shit. People do that for these real museums. They go out and they find these people and they interview them. And these old people, man, that some of them don't want to tell their stories because it's tough, man. It's like, yeah, I got there with my whole family. They executed them all in front of me, and then they made me, sew dresses, sew uniforms. How do you live with that, right? Talk about PTSD, right? These people are hurt. That's why you don't fuck with Israel. Nobody wanted them after World War II. Even the United States said, "No, sorry, we turned both of them away." So they finally said, "Screw it. We were promised this land in the Bible, and the British said we could have it. They did. It's the British's fault. But the British also told the Arabs they could have it. They didn't think anything would come of it. Well, they showed up. There was already Jews there to begin with. But then they started showing up. And then when everybody went to war, well, sorry, you had a bunch of people that just came out of concentration camps. And most of them were World War I vets. So they knew how to fight. And, yeah, you'd be surprised when your back's up against the wall what you'll do. Let's see, they got 5, 6 neighbors, all of them attacked, all of them lost. You don't mess with the Jews. You don't mess with Mossad, first of all. Their secret police, their version of CIA. You heard about the pagers, right? You've got Hamas in the south, and you got Hezbollah in the West Bank. Hezbollah was planning, and in Lebanon. Lebanon wants them out. But Hezbollah, they're planning all this stuff. They're getting it all together. Mossad, Israeli CIA, they open up a cell phone shop. And they make friends with everybody because they're cool guys, man. Yeah, I'll give you a deal on all these pagers. They sold like, what, 150 pagers? They were all bombs. And then someone went, boop, and they all blew up. And they killed the Hezbollah leadership. Oops. You don't mess with these people. You don't mess with them. You don't mess with them. They will fuck you up. Kind of like messing with America's boats. You don't mess with America's boats, or we will fuck you up. That's just the way it goes, right? Look at Japanese messed with our boats, right? Sorry, Somalians messed with our boat. Uh-oh. Kids, I want you to really think about what you're watching on TV, YouTube, internet, all of that. I want you to get a little more of a attention span, okay? Don't just go listen to the soundbite, okay? Like the Pritzker guy. Oh, I'm an expert on Nazis because I helped with a museum. Well, you got to stop and think about that, right? What did you do? What did you do to the museum? What was all that about? And sir, aren't you a billionaire to begin with? Don't we hate billionaires? Aren't we supposed to tax the rich? Tell me something. How much have you donated? You know, I live in a pretty poor state, Idaho. You know that we donate a lot of money to charitable causes. It's not because we're rich. It's because we're church going. And the church teaches you that you should give. It's almost like a Muslim thing. The Muslim has this thing, alms for the poor. Alms means pennies. You always have some alms for the poor, right? You know, you in Islamic society, you can never ever. You could be the guy's biggest enemy. Walk up to his door and knock on it and ask him for a glass of water. He's got to give it to you, because you cannot refuse an act of charity. Well, what has this Pritzker guy done? I think he wants to be president, like Gavin. But Gavin's an idiot. I mean, is that a Teflon guy or what? Gavin Newsom? Gavin Newsom? Do you know anything about Gavin Newsom? I'm from San Francisco. I know a little bit about that whole scene, you know. I know about Kamala Harris and giving oral sex to Willie Brown in the office where my wife's uncle was murdered. That's the mayor's office. You know, she kind of slept her way to the top there. She's not a DEI hire. She's a DEI gobble. Whatever. Who cares? But some about Gavin, right? Everybody's got to be masked up, and he's at the French Laundry. That's a place in Napa. It's a very exclusive restaurant. It takes 3 months to get a reservation. And he's there, no mask. What makes him so damn special? All the rules apply to us and not them. That's why I don't like the current Democrat Party. Look, RFK Jr., you know, the guy that talks like this, make America healthy again. Hey, man. His uncle, John F. Kennedy, you look at his policies, he'd be a conservative today. He would. He wanted to balance the budget, work it out with the Russians, get some peace going, and build the world's economy and lift everybody up. That's what he wanted to do. And now, that's like evil for some reason. I don't know why. Can't tell you. What's changed? Identity politics is what it is. Virtue signaling. It's virtue signaling, identity politics. You know, I stand for this, that, and you're taking away trans people's rights. No, man, look, the trans people I know, here's what they tell me. You got a group of these activist class that come to town, raise a big stink, usually at an elementary school where they know it'll piss people off, drag a bunch of drag queens around, a bunch of first graders. Great. These kids are supposed to be learning to read, not what a drag queen is, right? They can figure that out themselves eventually. Look, school is for learning reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Everybody knows that, except for these activists. They're paid to come and shit disturb, right? Just like Antifa. And then they leave. And then it's the local communities, the trans folks, the gay folks. I don't use the acronym LGBTQIA. It's just too much, man. I just call it the gay community because I'm old school. And it's left for the gay community to clean up. And now everybody thinks, oh my God, well, you guys are all, and they're like, no, we're not, man. We're not. We're not at all. We're not at all like that. We don't want to, we got no interest in your fucking kids. We think drag queen hour at kindergarten is stupid. And fuck, man, leave us alone. We just want to do our jobs. Live our lives and do our jobs. Support our families, our friends. Pay off our house. Buy a car. Go on vacation. The same shit you want to do, right? But it's these activists. It's these activist class that come in. And that's where the Democrats are big, right? That's where they're big. They're big on this activist class shit. Oh, they're big on it. They're big on it. It's what they do, right? And they say, oh, well, the Republicans do it too. No, the only time Republicans do it is on TV is when they show that, Baptist church where they say God hates fags and all that stuff. That's just to get a rise out of you, right? You don't see real hardcore activists coming out of the right. I mean, if you did, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, there would have been riots. And the worst thing is the right-wing people. I mean, you talk about the trans militia or the femboy militia or whatever. That's great. Yep. I owned a gun store 6 years. Taught a lot of people how to shoot. You ever see a leftist, a good Democrat? You ever see them shoot? I had to kick a kid out of class once because he wouldn't stop holding the gun like this instead of like this. Okay? You don't hold a gun like that. This isn't Grand Theft Auto. You want to hit something or you want to hurt yourself? You hold like this. He wouldn't do it. He a little hubba bubba from the hood. Had to throw him out. Had to throw him out. Warned him 4 or 5 times. I'm like, bro, that's it. You're done. You're done. Here's your $40. Get out. But you can't. Yes, I can. I reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Well, I did. I had that sign up. But there was a gun store in Southern California. This is true. This is true. I did the news story on this. Gun store in California had a sign. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Bunch of Crips and Bloods types walk in there, maybe a guy with Sereno tattooed across his head, whatever, wants to buy, a chopper. That's what they call an AK. And the guy goes, no, I'm not going to sell you that gun. Here's the sign. They got the ACLU and they sued that guy and they won. The store's ruined. Cost him everything he owned. God knows what he's doing now. Maybe he went to McDonald's, got himself a job and a college degree. I don't know. But he owned a successful gun store until the gangbangers came in and said, he wouldn't sell it to me because I'm black. No, he wouldn't sell it to you because you're a gangbanger, dude. And those of us who have lived in the hood or have worked in the hood or have been on the street and not lived in suburbia all our lives, or spent our lives at Ivy League schools, we know what a gangbanger looks like. We know what they look like, what they talk like, how they dress, how they walk, how they talk, and we know that they can get pretty shitty crack. And he lost. Yeah. That's your Democrats, though, because their rights were violated. Their rights were violated because they were going to go commit a crime with that gun. You know that, right? They were going to commit a crime with that. They were not going to go out and go sport shooting, right? I actually hunt deer with my AK-47. I don't carry a 30-round magazine, but I hunt deer. I've hunted deer with AK-47. It's got the same ballistics as a 30-30. 30-30 is a great deer round. Same ballistics. They weren't going to do that, man. They were gonna hurt somebody. The guy knew it. He wouldn't sell it. Got a Democrat lawyer, ACLU, man. These people will defend the Ku Klux Klan. They did, in fact. Look, guys, remember, Pritzker. Okay? Your lesson for today, Pritzker. He's not an expert on Nazis because he helped build a Holocaust museum. Dude, what did you do? Lay the bricks, put in some windows, or did you do research? This is the fat end, and that's for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Greta Thunberg Award of Tolerance, Acceptance, and Diversity, unless you disagree with us. Thank you very much. That's your dispatch from Flyover Country. Went a little long today. Jesus, 2 hours. I'm so sorry. I hope it was entertaining. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. Please smash the like button, subscribe, tell a friend. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. Tell someone you hate. I'll get some hate mail, sure, whatever. As long as it's mail, right? You know, something. Thank you very much. God bless you. I love you all, and I'm happy you sat and helped me help Greta be recognized. Guys, gals, and everyone in between, love you guys. I want to thank hopefully my technical director, who's going to be helping me out, Cora. Hopefully we'll get some better software going. She's brilliant, absolutely smartest, one of the smartest people I know. It's a long story. We'll get into that, how we met. It's another gun thing. Guns. Guns, Jerry Garcia, guns. Yay. What more can go wrong, right? A well-armed deadhead. Too bad there wasn't a bunch of well-armed deadheads at that place in Israel, right? Those Hamas cats would have had a real rude awakening if everybody rolled over with a galil and went, a galil is an Israeli weapon. Pop, pop, pop. Yeah, if they'd have been able to put up a fight and not just been hippies. It's your right, man. You're an American. It's your right to put up a fight. Don't be pushed around. Don't let the government or the leftists tell you, ooh, guns are bad. Get a gun. Get trained. Practice, practice, practice. But most importantly, show your family, your spouse, your kids. Take them all out. It's fun. When I'm at the range and I see little kids and their parents teaching them how to shoot, it warms my heart. It reminds me of my dad. My dad taught me at 5 to shoot. You know? It's your right. Protect yourself. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. You don't have to be. Just because you live on the coast doesn't mean, well, I mean, the way the laws are, well, whatever. You still can protect yourself in some way. Or you can leave your politics there and move to flyover country. We will not accept any more leftists who say, oh, I love this place. It's so safe and so nice. And the schools are great. But everybody's so Republican. And they get terrified when they see people open carrying at the Winco and the Albertsons. I love it. I never felt so safe. Anyways, that's your flyover dispatch for this week. I'm your host, PC Pedro. Thank you very much. Cheers.